Journalist Christine Brennan was indignant. Her comment from February 2022 about the doping case of Kamila Valieva was heard at the test skates of the Russian national team.
Новости, которые мне хочется видеть, Камилы Валиевой.
It was heartbreaking. It was unexpected. It was shocking, and you couldn't believe it.
A week ago, the Russian national figure skating team presented new programs for the 2022-23 season. Kamila Valieva's free program turned out to be a high-profile premiere. Before the start of the rental, the coaching staff of the 16-year-old figure skater, headed by Eteri Tutberidze, announced that the number would be unusual. And so it happened. Valieva's program is a reference to the scandal at the 2022 Olympics. In Beijing, it became known that the Russian woman had passed a positive doping test. Russia, which by that time had won gold in the team tournament, with the participation of Valieva, was not awarded medals, but Kamila was allowed to compete in individual competitions, where she, unable to cope with the pressure, became the fourth. Valieva's free skate ends with the skater putting on a black hood, the same thing Kamila did in Beijing when she was harassed by journalists. The voices of some of them sound at the beginning of the issue. Fragments from news releases, including Russian ones, are interrupted by the Truman Sleeps composition from Peter Weir's film The Truman Show. It immediately became clear that Valieva's freestyle was aimed at the Russian audience. Due to sanctions on Russian sports, figure skaters will compete in domestic competitions next year. But, as it turned out, Kamila's number was also looked at in the USA. And they were very angry. For example, journalist Christine Brennan, who heard her comment in the same news section at the beginning of Valieva's issue. Brennan wrote a USA Today column titled "The Valieva Figure Skater Scandal Takes an Unexpected Turn." I didn't expect Brennan wrote a USA Today column about the incident. In the 30-plus years since I covered Olympic figure skating, I thought I had seen and heard everything. From Tony Nancy to a French judge, from Russian fraud to new Russian fraud. I'm talking about the very scandal with Kamila Valieva at the 2022 Olympics in Beijing. But this week, the internet brought an unprecedented surprise: Valieva's new free program for the 2022 season 23, in which I participate. Actually my voice, an excerpt from a CNN interview hours after Valieva's shocking breakdown in the free skate in February. At the recent test skates of the Russian national team, Valieva, gloomily dressed in black, stands on the ice to the sound of ominous music and a few words in Russian playing throughout the arena, followed by the following words in English: "It was unexpected, it was shocking, which were mine." At this time, Valieva begins to skate, finishing in 4 minutes, pulling a black hood over her head, an artistic device reminiscent of how she raced past journalists, hiding her face in the Olympic mixed zone at the height of the doping scandal. The program appears to be her attempt to mirror her experience at the Olympics, where, as the overwhelming favorite for gold, she was allowed to compete in the women's competition despite a positive doping test. When her story rocked the games, Valieva, then 15 years old, finished fourth in the women's standings but had led Russia to gold in the team standings before that. Her positive test forced organizers to cancel the team's award ceremony. In addition, Russian figure skaters are currently banned from participating in international competitions, so Valieva's new free program has a very limited circulation. Valieva and her team used only a small part of my comments from February 17, 2022. There were more, reflecting the intimidating behavior that Valieva's coaches showed towards her after a positive doping test and an unsuccessful performance on the ice. It was unexpected, it was shocking, it was heartbreaking, and you can't help but think you're seeing the results of child abuse right here on the ice, on Olympic ice, on the greatest stage in the world. The Japanese Shimada with the best points of the season became the first at the stage of the junior series. One of the most talented young figure skaters won the second Grand Prix stage in her career. And with the best scores for a free program and in total, he continues to progress. At the stage in Gdansk, Mao Shimada showed not the cleanest, but still confident skating and approached the mark of 220, improving her previous result by 5 points. After the first day, the Japanese woman was in second place. She did not make any blunders, but her performance in the short program was less confident than at the previous stage. In the protocols, Shimada flew in a combination of Lutz, sheepskin coat on the first jump, which means that he is grounded in a quarter. Of course, this affected the scores. On the cascade, Mao seemed to lose speed, and the step sequence after her turned out only to the third level. Therefore, the skater received only 68.81 points for her performance. And the first after the short program was her compatriot, Mona Chiba. The 17-year-old Japanese figure skater did it all. Her performance to the music from the movie Schindler's List was the best. All jumping content was performed confidently. The judges only had questions for the Lutz in the cascade with a sheepskin coat, but, as you know, Points are not deducted for an unclear edge. With a total of 70.16 points, it was Chiba who was in the lead after the short program. But in the free program, Mao showed that it is not in vain that she is considered one of the most promising juniors in the world. The figure skater again went for 2 Ultra C elements, a triple axel and a quadruple sheepskin coat. There were no questions about the triplets, but on the quad, the judges noticed a quarter turn under rotation. In the remaining elements, Shimada did not give a single reason for any doubts. Excellent jumping height, great exits, all non-jumping ones, to the 4th level. This time, the staging to Pas-Pieds accented instrumentals by Jean-Michel Blaise and Alberto Iglesias Creditos looked different. It can be seen that the skater herself enjoys skating and already looks much more confident. This was also reflected in Mao's grades. The Japanese woman received 148.87 points for a free program. This is her best result this season. Thus, she scored 5 points more in total than at the previous stage. And for a junior who performed well, but not perfectly, this is an excellent result. But the leader after the short program, Monet Chiba, could not surprise with elements of Ultra C, like Shimada. But nevertheless, with a good rental, she scored 205.82 points in 2 programs and became the second at the stage in Gdansk. Unfortunately, none of the skaters, and there were as many as 49 of them at this tournament, could not overcome the mark of 200 points. But the performances of Japanese athletes show that they are definitely worth keeping in mind. Sooner or later, Russian figure skaters will return to international competitions. And it is important to know with whom to compete. Mao Shimada, who won the 2nd Grand Prix stage in her career, is definitely capable of imposing a fight on Russian women. The head of the International Olympic Committee, Thomas Bach, said that Russian athletes who distance themselves from the special operation in Ukraine should be able to compete under a neutral flag. Russian athletes did not start a special operation. Those who have distanced themselves from the regime should be able to compete under a neutral flag. Our goal is to make sure that athletes with a Russian passport who do not support the special operation participate in competitions again. But it is not easy, because at the political level there is a huge difference in our decisions. Some governments have taken the decision to deny visas to Russian athletes even if they are allowed to compete. Others have banned their athletes from competing with the Russians. Moreover, in some countries they do not feel comfortable. They are not guaranteed security. Our peaceful mission is faltering. Because of this, Russian and Belarusian athletes are now paying the price. But the problem could get worse, Bach said.